Yo, what's going on out there, YouTube? This is SCL0320 representing JVS. I'm going to make this very fast because I don't think I have the time or the energy to go back and edit something and put it on the HD quality. So I was like, I'm going to just give these guys my review fresh out the gate right now. So this is the thing with Dark Tower. This was directed by Nikolaj Arcel, starring Idris Elba, Matthew McConaughey, Tom Taylor, and Jackie Earle Haley. This is the reality of it for me with the Dark Tower. I have no preconceived notions about what the story is supposed to have been. I didn't know anything about the gunslinger. All I knew was, Stephen King made this into novels. They made this into comic books. This has been something that's been, I guess, over the decades in terms of people like really excited for what they're gonna do with this movie. So when I heard about it, I was like, okay, well, we'll see what's gonna happen. And then I saw the first trailer like in November, or not even November, maybe like 4 months ago, maybe in February or January, and I was just like, just doesn't seem tonally. When I think about the Dark Tower, all I see is this silhouette of this gunslinger, and it looked like this, really dark and just method and just like, I don't know. Even like I saw different moments of pictures or picture art of like monsters and stuff like that. So I was like, I thought it was gonna be that, but that was not what I saw from the trailer. So I knew going in that this was gonna be a very dumbed down version of the film, and it very much so is. This is catered to a PG-13 audience. This is not something that's rated R. I think that honestly, looking at it from a visual standpoint, I think the scope, it was very CG. Like they used a lot of different moments of CG. I think they did take place in some set pieces in the desert, but I think that they could have really did a better job with cinematography. I think the cinematography could have been so much more impeccable from a scope standpoint. I think that as soon as we actually get to see, the gunslinger that is named Roland, played by Idris Elba, I thought that should have been a panned out shot, not this kind of like one kind of interaction with the character Jake. I think they did a really good job with the establishment of Jake. I think that his beginnings of the movie was very dark, and it was filmed very dark, and it was very like, okay, like I see where they're gonna go with this. Now we're gonna connect over to this world, and then they take you over to the other side of the world, but they don't stay there long enough. And I think this is where the movie starts having problems. So the editing for this movie, to me, was not done very well. I think that the problem with it is, there were scenes where I was sitting there looking at Idris Elba. He was one interaction he had with his dad, one he had with Jake when they were in Midworld, and then all of a sudden it's just like, cut here, they're here, cut here, they're here, cut here, they're here. And I was just like, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to get us to the end. You're trying to get us to the third act as fast as possible, but you're losing quality in between. I feel like this movie was a different movie. I feel like a lot of hands were in a lot of pots, so to speak, because there are moments where I was like, tonally, I see where they're going to shift to this, and all of a sudden they just speed right past it. And I think that it disservices Idris Elba, because for him in this movie, he is very much so the hero, but they don't linger on, his torture. They talk about, what the Man in Black, played by Matthew McConaughey, does to him, but they don't sit there and express to you, like, this is why he's in so much pain. They only explain it or say it, versus the visual immersion, they could really go and be like, okay, this is what happened here. I heard one story where something terrible happened to the gunslinger. Even Matthew McConaughey says, I made this man suffer, everyone around him suffer. And then they still don't, really give me that. And so Idris is not given enough to go with. So it's like when he's on the screen, I know he's gonna be like, really brooding. He's gonna be really like unempathetic, but at the same time, he's got this aura about him, this hero, Superman kind of feel about him. And he's very much so trying to be like a father figure for the character Jake, which I actually really like Jake. I thought that the actor, what is his name? Tom Taylor. I thought he did a really good job. I think that the very beginning of the movie fit him better than when he went into Midworld. When he went into Midworld, he was just like a fish out of water. I was just like, this kid should be freaking out, Like, he was freaking out up until a certain point, and then when he got over there, it was just like, I think they could have played with the psychological impact of like, okay, all this thing that he's been dreaming about and seeing, now he's there. How's this playing on his mind? Like, is he assessing, is this real? Am I really crazy, kind of thing? And they don't really go there. They don't really push the boundaries of what, you know, his psychosis really could be. If you're going to tell this as an adaptation, I figured you would go there. Again, I don't know anything on the subject matter, and I don't know anything enough about the character Jake Chambers, which I think is a big part of, I guess, the 5th book, or a certain part later on as far as the book series. Now, I will say a big strength of this is Matthew McConaughey. Most of the people that were in my group chat, they were like, man, he did a great job. Man, he played the character, the Man in Black, very well. And I guess that this character is all over all the Stephen King novels. And that they said specifically that he should be that same exact one for this kind of universe, because Matthew McConaughey, he does some really interesting things that the trailers don't tell you, and I'm not going to spoil it for you. I think he does a really good job of what he was given. He had more opportunities to flesh out a character than, in my opinion, Idris did. I think that with the amount of sequences and stuff they were able to give him, I thought that he did a really good job of cementing, man, he is a really bad guy. But the problem with that is, for me, I think he could have been better. Personally, I think that when he kills somebody, for instance, he would go and like tell them like, stop breathing. If they stop breathing, they would just die. You know, not like, okay, when he tells somebody to stop breathing, like you start seeing them suffocate, or you start seeing them turn blue in the face. Or like when he goes and like there was this one girl, she was really beautiful or whatever, he touched her in the face and he started scarring her up. Like you don't see the blood dripping down. Like it is catered to a PG-13 audience, and that's where this movie suffers. They wanted to keep the movie at a 92-minute interval, and I think that cut away a lot of what they could have done from the process of you filtering the movie with, you know, the source material that we don't have. Like, okay, great, you're going to make MCR have like the television series and it's going to lead up until a certain point, great. But if you're going to give us something, give it to us straight to the arrow. And I think that he just has some really dope scenes. This is like towards the 3rd act, there was one dope, you know, action sequence, but it's not better than something like John Wick. To be quite honest, it's just not. And it's kind of an anticlimactic end. And I feel like it kind of ended kind of like a Marvel movie. And that's no shade, but I think that when Marvel handles their villains, they handle them a certain kind of way. And like, you know, things are just like, oh, it's just good. Like everybody's kind of good. And I think more so that was trying to set this up for a sequel. I just don't know. I think that this is so kid friendly that, you know, you could take your kids and see this, and then it's, I guess, dark enough that when you see like a monster, or you see like this one small dramatic moment that happens in the 1st act, you're kind of like, man, that's kind of like put you on the hair on your, the hair on your skin kind of like spike up. But all in all, you know, it should have been different. I don't want to sit there and say it should have been better, because I can't sit there and assess that. I can only go off the fact that I was able to understand who the gunslinger was. I know who Roland is now. I know who the Man in Black is, what his capability is. It just could have been darker. And I think making it darker tonally and not quitting could have made it so much better. You know what I'm trying to say? And I think that it's sad, because the kid that plays Jake, if they would have ended the end a different way and then had the gunslinger go in a different position towards the end, you know, specifically in the beginning of the 3rd act, I think this movie could have been a lot better. I don't know what I'm going to rate this, but I'm thinking like a 6 out of 10. I initially was going to say a 5 out of 10, but I'll say that Matthew McConaughey's performance really does serve something good. But it's like they didn't let him loose. He didn't sit there and go all out like I was hoping he would. And then Idris, when he's on screen, like I love Idris. Like I love him as, you know, an actor. And then I love him as this character. But I feel like if they would have went the raw grit, it could have been so much better. You know what I'm trying to say? And then as far as, like I said, the things that happened with the character Jake, it was really dope. But it was like they used somebody like, you know, Jackie Earl Haley, and like he's fighting like Idris for a second, And then all of a sudden, it's kind of like, where does this character go? And same thing with other characters, like all the B sub characters were just there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Idris's dad, for instance, that was played by, what was that guy's name? Dennis Haysbert. It was kind of like his character just kind of got like flushed. And I think that the moment with him and his dad is where I started losing it for the movie for me, because I felt like this is that dramatic moment that you need somebody like Denzel Washington, or somebody like, you know, like you feel his pain through what happens. You know what I'm saying? And that wasn't what I got. So I'm in between a 5 and 6 out of 10. I think I might keep it at a 6, because I think that from a general audience standpoint, that you can be able to go and watch this movie and not know anything about the books like me, and you know, you be able to kind of catch along what's going on. But you can tell from a critic standpoint that there was a lot more bulk to this movie that they just kind of cut out, and they really try to dumb it down to a PG-13 audience, and they try to keep it to a specific time frame. And because of that, the edits are just terrible. The pacing is just kind of like, in the first half, it was just terrible. When it got to the point where, you know, we got back to the Earth standpoint in the second act, it kind of was like back and forth. Like, I don't know, it was moments where I was like, I can see the chemistry between Idris and this guy Tom Taylor. There was some comedic moments between them, really interesting dialogue between Matthew McConaughey, but in all honesty, it just should have been a lot better. So I gotta go. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. Hopefully you enjoyed this review for The Dark Tower. Maybe things might change. What did you think, though? Peace, everybody. Talk to you guys later.